Jeff Gladney finally had his grand jury on Wednesday. First round draft pick out of TCU, 31st overall draft pick, where the Minnesota Vikings traded down after drafting Justin Jefferson, with 25th pick traded down with the 49ers, who traded up to draft Brandon Ayuk, who, by the way, if the Vikings drafted Brandon Ayuk instead of trading down, we could be in a much better spot right now, as we do need that another wide receiver. So we're just throwing that out there that the Vikings did make a mistake right there. But anyways, Vikings wouldn't have drafted two wide receivers in the first round anyways. So in the moment of time, Vikings did need a corner. So trading down and drafting Jeff Gladney was a very good move for the Minnesota Vikings. So now looking back on it, though, this was not a very good move for the Minnesota Vikings, as he has been cut by the team as of Wednesday following his grand jury, where he was indicted for felony assault on his ex-girlfriend in Dallas, Texas. Now, to the surprise of nobody, he was cut, because you're not going to keep this guy on your roster paying him this much money. You're paying him like a first-round draft pick, because he was a first-round draft pick. And now this is leaving the Vikings a lot in dead cap, but also opens up some more cap space to possibly have some more signings, maybe another corner or wide receiver the Vikings could sign. So he was arrested in April of Dallas, in Dallas as of April of this year. Now, he hasn't showed up, obviously, to any of the team meetings, any of the OTAs, or team practices. So, of course, he has to be cut, because he's setting us back. Keeping him on this roster would be setting us back. So we are just going to add Jeff Gladney already to the list of first-round busts for the Minnesota Vikings. In the Mike Zimmer era, Mike Zimmer has drafted 10 players in the first round, but we're not going to look at Christian Darrisaw, obviously, because he hasn't played a game in the NFL so far. Looking at the 9 players who Mike Zimmer has drafted, 3 of them have been good draft picks. 3 of them have lived up to their spot or exceeded. Those 3 players are Anthony Barr, Teddy Bridgewater, and Justin Jefferson. Right off the bat, he drafted Anthony Barr and Teddy Bridgewater in the first round. Now, Anthony Barr did live up to his 9th overall draft pick. As of recently, he has really fell off the deep end and doesn't look at all like a first-round talent, or even starting talent as of recently. However, you still have to put him on the list, because he did make 4 straight Pro Bowls. Teddy Bridgewater also led the Vikings to 11-5 season, so that's another great draft pick. Plus, he was the final pick in the 3rd round, so that was another very good draft pick. And then, obviously, Justin Jefferson. And then we're not going to talk about all the misses that the Vikings have had other than Jeff Gladney today, because it's really less of the Vikings, because the Vikings are great at drafting. Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman are excellent drafters. It's more on just that they've been unlucky. They've been very unlucky with Mike Hughes, who just suffered with injuries and ruined his career. Very unlucky with the Jeff Gladney situation now. Unlucky with Trey Waynes, who's also suffered with injuries. And that's really it. All 3 corners that I've just named, they have been unlucky with. So maybe just don't drafting corners in the first round is probably a good idea, and maybe sticking for the 3rd round, where you can find players like Cameron Dantzler and Chris Boyd and Harrison Hand that the Vikings also have on the roster that they signed in the day 3. So taking a look at the Vikings depth, because Jeff Gladney was a key player for the 2020 season, as he did play all 16 games. He was our most healthy corner. He was, I believe, I might have to check this, but I think he was the only corner who was healthy all 16 games and started 15 out of 16 of those games. Now, he looked like a rookie. That's the thing with Jeff Gladney. He did look like a rookie. Cameron Dantzler looked like he's been playing for some time. Gladney looked like a rookie. But with that being said, he had a lot of potential. He showed a lot of potential in the NFL, as he is an excellent tackler. He has great athleticism. And I wanted to see him start at nickelback this upcoming season, but with this happening, now I'm very happy that the Vikings did sign all these players in free agency. Vikings last year, what set them back on the secondary was lack of experience. I mean, you had Cameron Dantzler, Harrison Hand, Chris Boyd, Jeff Gladney. Those were your starting 4 corners. All 4 of those players were in their rookie season or their 2nd year. Those were your starting 4 corners. Into the season, Vikings started taking a bunch of practice squad guys, and it just did not go well at the cornerback position. That's why the Vikings just focused on the cornerback position again in free agency, obviously signing Patrick Peterson, signing Mackenzie Alexander, bringing him back. Vikings brought back, or they signed Ty Smith as well. So really just focusing to get a good balance between experienced veterans and players who are relatively new to the position or new to the NFL, and that Vikings have found a very good balance between those 2 positions. So taking a look at the cornerback room as a whole, there are 7 corners we're going to be taking a look at. We're not going to take a look at all these free agent corners that the Vikings took outside of these 7 ones, because you don't want more than 7 cornerbacks on your active roster. Your starting 3 corners will be Cameron Dantzler, Patrick Peterson, and Mackenzie Alexander as of today. Now, people assume that Cameron Dantzler has that position locked down, as he had an amazing rookie season last year, and really, against some of these best wide receivers in the NFL, looked amazing. And even though with the Jeff Gladney situation, we are lucky to have Cameron Dantzler, who he may not be the fastest in the world. He might be a very undersized corner, and that's why he fell to the 3rd round. Vikings are lucky to have Cameron Dantzler, as obviously what's happening with Jeff Gladney. This is not looking very good for the Minnesota Vikings. However, he does not have that position locked down, as it's very possible the Vikings decide to put Mackenzie Alexander or Bashaud Breeland at outside corner, starting left corner over Cameron Dantzler, just because he doesn't have the experience, and he's going to be going against Devontae Adams and Allen Robinson, and that's going to be very tough matchups for Cameron Dantzler. Patrick Peterson, he's going to play at right corner because he is going to be that zone corner for the Minnesota Vikings. Mackenzie Alexander, obviously at nickel, because we've seen him play that with the Minnesota Vikings in the past. And then signing Bashaud Breeland and Ty Smith, both free agents, for the Minnesota Vikings, are 2 veterans bringing to the team to help out these Chris Boyd, Harrison Hand players who are relatively new to the NFL. So taking a look at the quarterback room, it's not bad. I mean, you take a look at it and we still have 3 solid starters. I mean, there's no lockdown corner on this list. It's not like Jeff Gladney was that. Jeff Gladney would likely have been our starting nickel or our backup outside wide receiver, which would be our corner, which would be a good spot for him to play at. So that's really what his role was with the Vikings. And now losing him, you have to have Chris Boyd and Harrison Hand step into that role, which Harrison Hand, by the way, I do believe the Vikings should try to use Harrison Hand at safety because he is that zone player who they also use on special teams, because players like Josh Metellus and Miles Dorn did not look very good last year. And if you can use Harrison Hand and let him play at safety, also on special teams, he can be utilized a lot for a cornerback number 6. So that's why using 7 corners in this Vikings depth on this Vikings cornerback room would be very good for the Vikings, because really at the safety position, you only have 2 players locked down at their positions. Your 2 starters are great. Your backup, you have Cameron Bynum, who's a rookie, and having another player step into that spot other than Josh Metellus or Miles Dorn would be very good for the Minnesota Vikings. So all in all, losing Jeff Gladney, although he was a key player in the 2020 season and started 15 out of 16 games for the Minnesota Vikings as a rookie, which is very good, but that's mostly due to injuries and lack of experience and other corners at the position. So he's played a lot in the 2020 season, was a key part of our secondary. All in all, though, the Vikings really set themselves up to prepare to lose Jeff Gladney. After signing Patrick Peterson, after signing Mackenzie Alexander, Bashaud Breeland, Vikings signed multiple corners. Ty Smith signed multiple veteran corners to basically fill in for this role. The Vikings really prepared themselves for this, and that's why I'm still very hopeful going into this upcoming season. Now, it's kind of sad to see because Jeff Gladney was a 1st-round draft pick who was overall very healthy throughout his college career and in the NFL. To see the Vikings suffer with a loss here and losing another 1st-round draft pick, specifically another 1st-round corner, is a sad sight to see. So Vikings just don't draft corners in the 1st round anymore. I mean, you're just going to get unlucky. It's not like the Vikings can't draft corners in the 1st round. You just get unlucky, as we saw with Trey Waynes, as we saw with Mike Hughes, and as we're seeing with Jeff Gladney. Vikings just get unlucky. So if you take a look at the team cap space, though, as this was a rookie contract, so our 1st-round draft pick rookie, he was making approximately $4 million a year, I believe it was, but now the Vikings are paying $11.3 million in dead cap, which is a lot. It's much higher than it should have been, but anyways, the Vikings adjusted cap space now is $13.5 million, leaving a lot of room for new signings on the Minnesota Vikings, and then their 2022 cap space is $4 million, but that's going to change as the Vikings are going to have a lot of cuts by the end of this offseason. Of course, going into the season, Vikings are going to have to move down to 53 players. So that 2022 cap space will go up a lot. But the Vikings adjusted cap, $13.5 million, leaves a lot of room for new players, maybe another wide receiver, another corner. Most likely another wide receiver, offensive lineman the Vikings should be focusing on here, but that leaves a lot of room. So let me know what players you think the Vikings should sign. I know there's a lot of big name players still available, like Larry Fitzgerald, that I guess the Vikings could use, because what I heard during training camp, Vikings can use more help on the offensive line, especially at the guard position. Vikings could definitely use some more help. I know they're playing Oli Uda as a guard now, which he's a big player, so I'm pretty sure he could be a good guard, but again, he's never played guard in his life. I mean, I don't know why you're just transitioning him. I think this is his 3rd year and you're trying to play him at guard. So that means the Vikings are just that desperate at the guard position. And they should have taken Joe Thuney in free agency, but decided to just pass on him and look to the draft where they drafted one guard, Wyatt Davis. And hopefully he can look good as well. So we're actually going to take a look at all this in the next podcast episode about players who I'm very excited to watch and who I will be watching the most in the NFL preseason that the Vikings only have 3 preseason games. They're moving to 3 and 17 regular season games. So during that, what players the Vikings should be looking to. So let me know what you guys think. Who do you think the Vikings should sign with this $13.5 million cap space? Thank you all.